Okay, joining us now, someone who was just mentioned, Florida Congresswoman Paulina Luna. Congresswoman, pleasure to have you on, running uncontested, though. A lot to celebrate for you. For the state of Florida here, talk about what you're looking forward to come the general election. Byron Donald's going to represent the GOP to become the next governor of the state of Florida. Talk about it.
Look, I was in early for Governor Donald, is what I'm going to call him now, but Byron actually helped me initially in my election when I was in a brutal contested primary. So hopefully everyone will understand that primaries and a lot of the mudslinging that happens in them, we support the nominee and we move forward. But Byron has been through this entire process just a completely honorable candidate in all of this, continuing forward, pushing what his vision is for Florida. And also, too, I'd like to remind people that I represent the district that David Jolly abandoned. Remember, David Jolly used to be the Republican congressional member that held Pinellas County in Florida's 13th congressional district. And there's a ton of stuff that a lot of people might not know about David Jolly, to include the fact that he held money in an organization that he helped run that was literally under investigation for defrauding people. And so I think that Governor Donalds will do a great job getting that information out to voters. But David Jolly is not for us. He doesn't represent what Floridians want. He's, more concerned about transing your kids than he is focusing on issues of affordability. So I'm very happy that Byron Donalds ended up winning that nomination. We knew he was going to win, but he won big. And ultimately, I will be helping him on the campaign trail to ensure that he has a big win this November.
Well, Congresswoman, it looks like the progressive push in your state failed, except for one standout here, Angie Nixon versus Alex Vindman. So that was an upset, so to speak, for the Senate, for the Democrat Senate primary. Let's take a listen to what Angie Nixon, what she stands for. Okay, so basically it was a clip. She's talking about abolishing ICE, abolishing the Senate. We also remember that she was at the Tallahassee Capitol with that big bullhorn. I mean, does she stand a chance against Ashley Moody in the Senate? It seems like it might be null and void for the progressives.
Look, I don't think that she'll actually win, but what I will say is that Republicans should not discredit the amount of crazy that the Democrat Party has been forced to embrace with some of these insurgent candidates, like DSA candidates that are funded and tied to the CCP. Remember, the core tenet of what DSA is standing for is literally pushing Marxism, not to mention it is mainly a racist rhetoric and ideology. And I want to remind people that a lot of their candidates are making anti-white commentary. They are literally blaming white people, and I say this as someone who is half white and half Hispanic. They're blaming white people for their problems. If you're doing that, not only does it make you ignorant, but it also makes you racist. And so she's not the only crazy candidate that we're dealing with in this election cycle. You have a DSA candidate that got elected in New York that also made anti-white comments. And so I look forward to the Senate NRSC actually doing an education campaign to Florida voters on what this DSA radical candidate stands for. And I can tell you one thing, according to voter turnout, we kicked their butts on voter turnout in Florida for Republicans. So
I'll tell you what,
Congresswoman, holding that
we,
momentum in November.
We actually have that soundbite here.
Yes.
We want to play it.
Okay.
I want to abolish for-profit prisons because I believe right now people aren't educating our children and they're ushering them into the school-to-prison pipeline because they want to exploit labor. They're enhancing penalties because they want cheap labor. And so those are some of the things that I am supportive of.
I'll tell you what, Congresswoman, if there was any state that I would think the DSA or anything that resembles communism whatsoever, it would do poorly in the state of Florida. So many people have fled countries like that, now call Florida home here. Again, your thoughts on her having any kind of success here in the next couple months?
No, I don't think that she's going to be successful, but also look at how ridiculous her arguments are. I mean, she's like literally saying the prison, pipeline is responsible for what? People wanting cheap labor. Open borders, Joe Biden's policies, Kamala Harris' policies on open borders, and DSA policies on open borders contributed to a large amount of migrant children, Hispanic children at that were then working illegally on some of these farm operations. And then you literally had established Democrats will say, well, if people don't come here illegally, who's going to pick the crops? Like, I'm sorry, what? And so ultimately, again, the arguments don't even make sense, but that's exactly why it's so important that we use our platforms as elected members in both the House and the Senate to educate people on what these people truly represent. Because they'll tell you, they're like, yeah, look, everything's free. We want Medicare for all. But then if you look at actually what they're doing behind the scenes, look, I have a discharge petition. That means I'm collecting signatures to cap student loan interest at 2%. This was typically a Democrat argument that they wanted to make education more accessible and affordable. And literally all of their DSA members of Congress are staying off of that because Hakeem Jeffries told the Democrats that they don't want to work with Republicans on any issues, to include something that affects millions upon millions of Americans, specifically on the student loan issue, because they don't want to work with Republicans ahead of the midterms. And so, again, look, I've pushed the issues, and the entire party has gotten behind these issues, whether it's banning insider trading, voter ID, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, literally the biggest tax cuts in U.S. history under the One Big Beautiful Bill, and the list goes on. And what do they complain about? They're literally talking about these left-wing ideologies and perspectives and have nothing to show for or deliver.
So totally changing the United
States
as we know it, too.
Yeah.
Another thing about getting free stuff from other people, I would feel weird as a man actually having that dynamic here.
Fair point.
Yeah. Congresswoman Paulina Luna, it's a pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Congresswoman.
Thanks.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.